Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Welcome to Accelerated Health Radio and TV. I'm your host, SaraBanta. I'm a health coach, natural supplement expert, and a busy mom of 3 teenagers. I believe your body does want to, and it's capable of rebuilding and healing itself regardless of what chronic disease you may have. And I'm here for you to answer your questions, bring you innovative and cutting-edge technologies and health solutions to empower you and your ability to reach your optimal state of health. Today, my guest is back, and we will be talking about magnesium and individualized nutrition and how some of the wrong supplements could be going the wrong way with your health, and how not taking the right supplements could cause weight gain and other issues. If your physical body isn't functioning, then your mental and spiritual health are going to suffer as well. And you are not going to be able to live at that higher level of frequency or vibration in life to be able to detox and live your optimal life. So I'm here to help you get there if you're new to following me. And you can find my health articles, my cutting edge natural supplements and devices and protocols at SaraBantaHealth.com. Accelerated Health Products is my company, and it sponsors this show. So as you support my website, I'm able to bring you more cutting edge content and guests to this show. So first, I wanted to talk about some other tools that you can use to help with your mental health, physical health, and live your best life. The goal is to improve mitochondrial health and increase energy at the cellular level, so the neurons are firing, and we're not just anti-aging, but we're reverse aging in body, mind, and spirit. The first supplement is Accelerated Silver, and this supplement is the reason my company was grown, and it started with my son's diagnosis of leukemia at the age of 9. That was 10 years ago. He's now a healthy boy, almost 20, and he hasn't missed a day of school from any cold or flu, including from the last 2 years, and none of my kids have because of this supplement. Accelerated Scalar Silver is enhancing your immune system's ability to devitalize foreign pathogens, including viruses, bacteria, fungus, and parasites. And if your immune system is bombarded with fighting foreign pathogens, it cannot simultaneously engage in those anti-aging mechanisms or autoimmune issues. By keeping your immune system strong, the body engages in those anti-inflammatory processes, leading to optimal health. And it's enhanced with scalar frequencies like most of the Accelerated Health products to increase its efficacy. No other silver does this. The next one is the Accelerated Keto. And this supplement is not just for people on a high-fat diet. It flips you into fat-burning mode within 30 minutes, and your body taps into its own fat stores for energy right away. And you feel this mental and physical boost, and you finally say, oh my gosh, I can do this. I can do my work. I can go clean out my closet. I can do life better. I can actually do the diet that someone's telling me to follow. And when the body's running on ketones produced by the Accelerated Keto combined with intermittent fasting, a low carb diet, instead of utilizing glucose for energy, ATP production increases significantly in the mitochondria, and mitochondrial biogenesis is optimized. What does that mean? You feel great and you're anti-aging. Furthermore, there are additional ingredients in the keto product that break down saturated fats into unsaturated fats, and these unsaturated fats are easier for the body to utilize and easier for the body to convert into ketones. So it's like a second source of ketones. When you're fasting, the body body fats more readily available to burn for energy, which increases ketones and autophagy mechanisms further. And because of this property, accelerated keto is able to defat the liver. And if you know me, you know I love my liver. You need a liver flush 3 to 4 times a year, especially in this toxic world. And that liver is responsible for converting stored fat into ketones. The more a person's liver is defatted and unclogged, the easier it is for the liver to function in all areas, including break down those fat molecules into usable energy. And it's also where the thyroid hormones convert from T4 to T3. And I feel like every single human on earth right now is suffering from Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism because of what's going on, insulin resistance and the toxicity overload. And as the liver functions better, the thyroid works better, increasing metabolism, mitochondrial function, and energy. It also has something called HMB, which actually prevents muscle wasting. This is something that a lot of bodybuilders are familiar with, and our guest will be familiar with as well, but that's actually in the accelerated keto product. We also have the acceleridine that works synergistically with the silver and with the accelerated keto. Acceleridine is the only monoatomic iodine, and it's not just for your thyroid, but iodine is needed for every one of the 100 trillion cells in the body. The number one reason for mitochondrial failure, iodine deficiency. Thyroid hormones must attach to the mitochondrial, and the mitochondria, as well as the nucleus of the cell, have thyroid hormone receptors. So not just in the thyroid. This is applying to every single one of the 100 trillion cells in your body. Intracellularly, iodine produces energy. Extracellularly, iodine is an antioxidant, an anti-allergenic. It detoxifies, it's vasodilating, it's autoimmune suppressing, it induces apoptosis, which is the natural death of diseased cells, and it increases ATP production by 18 times. So when you combine that with the accelerated keto, that increases ATP by 5 times, the numbers are just exponential. It helps with physical performance, wound healing, fat burning, and like I mentioned, apoptosis, but also brain function. Iodine deficiency is also the number one predictor of depression and anxiety. You also feel enlightened. It's known as the number one spiritual element. Super important for everybody. And acceleridine is the only iodine that has 100% bioavailability, and it's further enhanced with scalar frequencies to detox the cells from heavy metals, graphene oxide, and radiation. And along with the acceleridine, you take the accelerated ancient salt, which is full of 62 minerals. It's not just a salt. Besides being the best tasting salt out there, it helps with digestion, nausea, breaking down fats in the body. It's scalar enhanced to further enhance your frequency and reorganize your DNA. It helps with that digestion of the fat, but it also helps with rehydration at the cellular level and detoxification from radiation and heavy metals as well. It also is great for stimulating digestion. I don't season my food with anything else. You can also add in some of the Life Wave stem cell patches that actually increase ATP production. And within 15 minutes, I feel a huge boost. I can have a tired morning, put my patches on, and I'm in my garage doing my workout stronger than I did 20 years ago. I love the Energy Enhancer patch. The X49 patch increases energy. It helps with cardiovascular. It helps with fat burning and muscle building and osteoporosis. It also helps with hair growth. And the X39 resets over 4,000 genes to a younger state. I give more tips and tools through my free group coaching. You can join with the link below on Telegram or email me through the website, SaraBantaHealth.com. The difference between me and any other group coaching is I provide the most cutting edge frequency enhancement enhanced supplements that work synergistically with each other, and your body doesn't experience those flu-like symptoms. You truly feel great day one. Leave a comment below if you're interested, or check it out on the website, SaraBantaHealth.com. Now to the good stuff. Wade Lightheart is back, and he's an advisor to the American Anti-Cancer Institute and a 3-time all-natural bodybuilding champion. Despite his lousy genetics and a vegetarian diet, he also studied exercise physiology and nutrition at the University of NB. As a coach and the president and co-founder of BiOptimizers, which is one of my favorite companies, he's helped over 50,000 people, and I believe that number would be a lot more now, achieved by BiOptimized Health for the last 25 years. Welcome, Wade. How are you today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on.
That number has got to have been exponentially grown since the last time we talked.
Yeah, we're adding tens of thousands of people every month. So I don't even know what it's at now. It's a lot.
Right. It's a lot. It's a lot of people that you're helping. And we've had you on before multiple times. So if anyone's missed those conversations, definitely go back. We talk about digestion and all of the important things just for optimal human health. And what's so interesting about you, it's the same as me as far as it's the pain to purpose story of we found a niche because we found our own need. And we were just driven to satisfy that. And we just are so suffering in a world where our minerals are depleted, our soils are depleted. We just can't get away with not supplementing. And I wanted to ask you, can you talk about what's going on with our food supply in general?
Great question. Thank you. It's something I dove into deeply, and it came again organically, quote unquote, simply because my mom was an organic gardener as a kid, which was really radical, where most people use fertilizers and chemicals and stuff because they found that it was ways to make their garden. And but my mom was organic. We thought she was a little bit crazy, and we'd tease her about it. And then I went off to university and discovered that when I ate the university food, I didn't feel the same as when I ate the food that I had at home. And then I'd come back home in the summer and I felt the difference. I was like, well, wait a second, what's going on here? So I started looking into the origins of what happened with our food supply. And you have to go back to the 1940s in particular, which is a unique time in that after World War II, we had several pressures that came onto our farming situation. Number one, people moved from rural areas where there was a presence of localized produce into urban areas, and we started to really accelerate the manufacturing culture. And concordant to that was the baby boom, an explosion in the population. So we had less people producing food and more people moving into the cities. And while that accelerated capital, it put a pressure on food supply. So governments said, what are we going to do? We need to start creating government boards and food regulatories, and started doing experiments. And they started making commodity type standards for how much we needed of this and how much we needed of that of food to make sure that we had food supply. Well, that made farmers move to commercialized farming, where they moved from crop rotation, which regenerated the soil. You'd go through, different crops each year. My mom still does this. She moves her crops from different spots each year. And then you have a year of fallow where you do nothing to the soil. And then you have another year where you you'll turn into like hemp and manure or minerals, depending on what's going on with the soil at that given time. And this was practiced for thousands of years by farmers. Well, under conversion, monoculture, commercialized things, we used machines. We had these giant infrastructures, sometimes subsidies. We started growing mass amounts of foods in super farms, essentially. Instead of the local family farm, you had these super farms. Well, what happened is they introduced nitrogen, which was leftover materials from bomb manufacturing, to accelerate the growth of the plants. So the initial benefit was obvious. You increase the yield of the plant. And part of the problem also came from just determining what was in food. And it was largely focused on protein, carbohydrates, fats, fibers, and the trace minerals, the amounts of minerals, the enzymatic content, the probiotic content was left out of the equation in identification. Well, then what began to happen is the plants began to weaken, and they would be more susceptible to insects, parasites, fungus, all of these different things that robust, healthy plants that have all these elements can protect themselves. And there's a carryover to humans. Well, guess what? The next thing that happened is, we developed chemical-based agents, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides to deal with these, and further weakening the nutritional value because we're growing the product, we're getting higher external yields with lower internal yields, a weakening of the plant, and we're not crop rotating like we used to, which would re-support the soil. And primarily, we started accelerating the loss of the nutrient quality of our foods while adding all these chemical agents, which disrupted enzymes, disrupted probiotics, disrupted how many minerals the plant was able to extract out of the soil, those little microorganisms that are essential to this. And what did we get? We've got today's modern food production. And if you look at the evidence, a great example is if they took the food nutritive value of a peach in California in 1955 and compared it to a peach produced today, and it was over 50 times the amount of nutrients in the 1955 peaches is today.
Wow. So right? What are we eating? I mean, what are we eating? We're eating calories and fiber, essentially.
Exactly. And one of the things that I've always suggested to individuals, if you want to get an illustration, is go take a strawberry, a great example, because strawberries, if you look at strawberries in the wild, they're like little teeny tiny strawberries. It takes so long to pick a cup. I had to do it as a kid. I hated it. It would take so long to get a little cup of wild strawberries. And you go to commercialized strawberries and the farming and all of the components that go into strawberry. So go buy a box of strawberries from a regular conventional program. Go buy a box of strawberries from an organic store, and then go get one that's grown on a biodynamic farm. Mm-hmm. The difference in flavor, taste, the texture, the color, how it makes you feel in the body they're like different food categories. Now, this is across the board. Also, on top of that, we have overstimulated our sensory nerves to such an extent that we're not attracted to healthy food. We're attracted to chemicalized food through the abuse of technological and chemical production plants, which really emerged in the 1970s to get people to consume more of a product by creating mimickers that the body thinks is a nutrient it's getting from the food, but it's actually not, and may actually be a toxic element. So what that increased is the amount of consumption. If you can think back to the 70s, for those who are around there, this is when we went from the little tiny cans and little tiny bottles and little tiny bags to bigger size and super size and grand size and family size and all this sort of stuff. So people can't begin, and there's a correlation with obesity. And so what happens is people have been taught a caloric model of eating, which is propagated at every level of the nutrition industry, and a food paradigm that doesn't address the actual quality of the nutrients in a plant as opposed to the caloric content. Those two things cause people to overeat, and just like the plants, they get bigger, they grow more, that people are bigger and larger, largely because of chemicals, but they're sicker and less vital, just like the plants happened. And so now we're at this crossroads where we cannot get everything that we need out of our diets, no matter how healthy we try to eat. In fact, you're guaranteed a deficiency. Now, based on your genetics and your nutrigenomics is going to determine which things you're more predisposed to. But if you understand that and you're listening to Sara, she's going to be able to share with you specifically what I call the upstream issues. And so many of our best and brightest minds are coming into universities, coming into research fields, coming into political organizations, agricultural organizations, and they don't know the historical aspects of food. And they've never had real food in their own condition. And so what happens is they're operating inside a vacuum of comprehension, which is not accurate. And this has why we have had so many people getting fat, out of shape, they're sick, they don't know what's going on, they're getting genetic illnesses, they're susceptible to immune system responses that were not normal. Well, and an inability to procreate. Well, that's all largely because it's the food, and then you can add genetic modification and all that. So as health advocates for ourselves and for our families, it is up to us to recognize that we cannot rely on external authorities through our regulatory, our government, our political, and our education systems. They're simply not capable of arriving at accurate conclusions. So this is not a political statement or anything. It's just a fact. And so you can only, if you are looking inside a bubble of information, you are going to immediately come to erroneous conclusions if you don't know the whole picture. And you've got to get the whole picture. And I love what you had mentioned with reference to your supplements, because you're using many of the same philosophies that we use at BiOptimizers. And ironically, or maybe not so much, is almost all of the best companies I know started by a founder that had some sort of problem. They couldn't figure it out. They went downstream. They did their research. They went back in history. They figured it out. And they ended up producing a product or products that solved that particular problem. And it turns out it helped a lot of other people. That's the story of almost every great company I know. And it's no different for you.
Absolutely. And I that's why I align with you so much. But I want to emphasize a few things that you touched on. Number one, our soils are going to be completely depleted, and we better turn this around as humankind. Zach Bush I was at a dinner with him the other night, and he was talking about this. We are in dire straits as far as our soils go. And on the news last night, guess who is, and you know this, Wade, is the #1 landowner now of farmland, and that's Bill Gates. And I saw him sitting there going, oh, look at these amazing sausages that you can make out of growing, I don't even know, fungus or mushrooms or something. But it's so scary where our food supply is going. And you mentioned the plants are getting weaker and weaker and weaker. Well, then we eat them. They're obviously not even nutritious, but they are killing off our good gut microbiome. So we're not even absorbing any of the little nutrients that may even be in there. So it's just this vicious cycle, and we get sicker, like you said, and our body it's starving. So we constantly are eating because our brain is not getting the signal, oh, I've got enough nutrients, so I just need to keep eating and eating and eating. Thyroid goes down, obesity starts coming up, and the heart disease and all the metabolic diseases that are there. And it's amazing when someone starts reversing that trend, and they might have symptoms of heart disease and thyroid issues and inflammation and brain fog. And just by supplementing right, just by eating the right foods, eliminating the wrong foods, all of the symptoms start going away. All of the disease factors start going away. It's not like in the Western medical model where you take a medication for each one of the diseases. You are simply healing your body from the inside out, and everything else just kind of goes away. So I just wanted to emphasize some of the points that you were talking about. And now I want to make sure we have plenty of time to dive deep into one of the most important and essential, and everyone needs it, and that's why it's such a great supplement, is magnesium. So first, why don't you talk about the overall magnesium benefits, and where is the body using magnesium?
Right. So magnesium is used in over 300 processes inside the body. I call it the miracle mineral, and it's really involved in a couple of key areas. vasodilation of your arteries, in other words, and also the relaxation response in all striated and smooth muscle tissue. It moves your nervous system from fight or flight into rest and relax. This is a critical component because we're overstimulated. It also has been shown to, and that's how it impacts people that suffer from migraines. Oftentimes it's from vasoconstriction from an inflammatory response inside the body. It's also one of the triggers for heart attacks. Magnesium is a regulation between contraction and relaxation. So it's the relaxation part of the channels that work inside your muscle tissues. So athletes have used it as recovery, as also a way to relieving spasms inside the body. So restless leg syndrome, cramping inside the body, those things are usually examples. Also irregular heartbeats, PMS, these type of issues, various enzymatic functions inside of the body. Healthy bones, and people go, well, I thought magnesium is what we needed for healthy bones. Well, we have a diet that's very rich in calcium, but not magnesium. And calcium and magnesium operate in a 2-to-1 ratio, magnesium being the control. And our soil in North America is completely devoid of sufficient levels of magnesium. Even if you're eating a perfect diet, you're not going to get enough. And concordantly, you can bet that almost everyone, particularly if you're having trouble with sleep, is a good example. If you don't sleep well at night, what's happening is your neurotransmitter formation that keeps you rested and sleeping, as well as the relaxation response, because people will start to spasm as well, which will also, people jolt and wake themselves up, or become hypersensitive to noise stimulants. It's because of their neurotransmitter production, which magnesium is a key element in that process. And so many people find that they sleep better, their muscles feel more relaxed, they feel the stress reduction hormone. We use a lot of caffeine and stimulatory products. And then there's one final piece that magnesium offsets, and that is we have now, if you looked at our lives compared to, say, our grandparents or great-grandparents, we're literally exposed to trillions of times more electromagnetic frequency pollution. We are not just biological, we're actually waves, if you go down to the physics level. All of this energy creates a stimulatory response both in our mitochondria and throughout our nervous system, in that it's agitated. And in order to offset that, we need to regulate with magnesium. So our demands for magnesium are going up in a technological world, and our capability of getting it is going down because of what we had mentioned before. And so Magnesium Breakthrough was something that came out of the brainchild. Its precursor was a fellow by the name of Charles Poliquin. Charles Poliquin coached gold medalists in 27 different sports, the who's who of professional athletes. And one of the things that he found is that athletes training at a very high-end level would break down due to the stress of the repeated training and performance. And he started researching magnesium, and he realized that different types of magnesium were actually uptaken by different tissues in the body. And so he would have his athletes take a variety of forms of magnesium so that they could train more frequently, they could train harder, they could train longer, and they could recover better. And I got exposed to Charles in this concepts. And I went through a period of time where I got really stressed out being a serial entrepreneur and running 3 companies and living all around the world and all that glamorous thing on the outside, but inside it was killing me. And when I did my SpectraCell test, it turned out I had really high levels of magnesium depletion. And that's when I went to Charles' notes. And then I started doing experimentation with my business partner, Matt. And then we were able to figure out through a unique set of processes of how we could come up with the world's best magnesium product, which included 7 different types of magnesium actually for maximum benefit.
Yeah, it's funny because my kids love to have magnesium gummies, and because they taste good, right? And mind you, they're teenagers. You would think that I have toddlers that want gummies, but no, they're teenagers. And I said, okay, I'm happy to buy these stupid gummies for you, but you have to promise me that you're taking the Magnesium Breakthrough as well. But why don't you talk? I mean, where are they missing the boat when they're taking just a magnesium citrate or something, and then also filled with sugar and other ingredients that are fillers?
Yeah, so that's a big issue. Fillers, fillers and flow regulators are elements in the food production or supplement production that allow for when you're filling up a cap or filling up a product, this stuff will stick or conglomerate, and they can't produce en masse in order to do that. And so there's a variety of different ways. And one of the big things is to use things like magnesium stearate, which isn't that great for you, or other flow regulators, which are disruptive to the body. And that will cause problems because you're adding more toxins and you're getting benefit.
Right.
When it comes to the different, so in order to create a multifaceted magnesium that didn't have the weird flow regulators, as they call them, then you had to change your equipment. You had to change your capsules. And the reason no one had done that before, because it was very complex and nobody had figured it out. Fortunately, we had a team that was able to figure this out. It took us a long time to do it, to put all these different magnesiums together, because there's different benefits. And if you want to, I can run through the different benefits of the different types of magnesium. And most magnesium companies are just like, oh, well, we put magnesium, whatever the 8 inside it, which is just related to the bond. And that bond determines what's going to be absorbed inside your body. So I can run through some of the aspects that people are interested.
Well, why don't we take a short commercial break? And when we come back, we'll go through all 7 types of magnesium.
Sounds great.
Welcome back to Accelerated Health Radio and TV. I'm your host, SaraBanta, the owner of Accelerated Health Products. And today we've got Wade Lightheart talking all things magnesium. Wade, I want you to get into the 7 different types of magnesium. But first, I wanted to just touch on something you talked about as far as the calcium-magnesium balance in the body. If you look at most diseases or a lot of issues in the body, they're created by calcium deposits, or like oxalates are supplements or minerals attaching to calcium, or they're deposits that cause arthritis or in the brain. And it also can be causing some of the hair loss. I don't know about you, but I'm hearing a lot of people in the last 2 years having hair loss issues, men and women. And magnesium is one of the things that helps with hair loss because it combats the issues with the calcium. So maybe you can dive a little more into the calcium magnesium issue in the body.
Yeah, again, it's a 2-to-1 ratio of calcium to magnesium. And so many people, if you look at longevity factors, so basically calcium and magnesium, along with potassium and sodium, work in tandem to regulate the flow of things inside and outside the cells through these little things called aquaporins, which respond both to frequency as well as mineralization, which is very unique. And different age groups are now showing that younger people are often better regulated to EMF pollution than, say, older people. So we are mutating as a species to tolerate higher levels, but there's still a big variance into how much that impacts and how much minerals will actually be effective for the individual in ensuring that you got a sophistication of the flow between those elements. To give you an example, when you're depleted in magnesium, and I learned this way back in the day in bodybuilding circles, you cramp or you get knots inside your muscle, which are calcium deposits that build up because magnesium will prevent the buildup of those calcium deposits. So things like osteoarthritis, for example, is the calcification of tissues, which is part an acidic metabolism thing, but it's a way your cells detoxify the elements of their body and exchange that. And of course, that's going to vary from person to person. And so one of the things that I think is really important is you need to have an expert, someone that can interpret your genes and your epigenetics, and then, go through your vitamins and minerals. I use a SpectraCell test, and then you can get into a Dutch hormone test, or then some GI stuff and things like that. So then now you can get a picture of what's that individual and where they're going to be more susceptible. In North America, the calcium magnesium issue is huge because of what we said before. We just don't get enough. And what we're doing, and I want to caveat one other thing too, for foods, because you can't supplement your way out of a bad diet, and the best diet will require supplements. That's something I always say. So if you have cravings for chocolate, that's a good indication that you're depleted in magnesium. Avocados, nuts, almonds, cashews, Brazil, seeds like pumpkin, flax, and chia, bananas, leafy greens, fermented organic tofu, not regular tofu, and legumes are the general sources of magnesium. Of course, you would like to get them organic, and ideally biodynamically grown foods would be better. Almost impossible to do on most diets or most lifestyles. So that's kind of the story. In fact, I'll give you another little preemptive. When I was doing all my magnesium experiments, I even hired a naturopathic doctor to give me intravenous magnesium into the body to kind of offset and accelerate my results, which you definitely want to do under the guidance of a practitioner, because if you do too much, it's not that great. And it makes you feel a little loopy, a little bit, and your muscles will actually get so soft it's almost hard to walk, because they're so relaxed. So it's a very interesting thing. But places where I had calcium deposits, I would literally feel burning both in my brain, in muscle tissues. As the intravenous magnesium went in, it would go into those spots and start breaking down that magnesium. So as we age, a lot of people in North America get very stiff and tight. And that is literally the calcification of the tissues, and also calcification inside your veins. Okay, is actually the biggest source of heart disease. Now, I'm aware of this for my own self because genetically I have to watch out for it. The heart in my family is very good. The vascular system is not so good and is prone to calcification. And so I need to offset that with supplementation. So when you learn your genetics and you understand this, then you can target your supplements based on predispositions. And that's going to vary between you, your kids, your spouse. The variance of how you got formed versus how someone else got formed, even in the same family, can be significantly different depending how those paired up.
Yeah, it's a big issue, and that's why I wanted you to really dive into that, and that was awesome. So in the last few minutes, that we've got about 10 minutes to go, I want to make sure we have time to go through all 7 types of magnesium and what their functions are in the body.
You bet. Okay, so the first one we're going to start with is citrate. This is the most commonly used magnesium. It should only be used in small amounts. It's mostly used for a laxative or for acid indigestion. It draws water into the intestines. Too much of it, you get the runs. So you don't want too much, but a little bit is good because you want to stay at a nice hydrated colon. Magnesium bisglycinate. So high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, it's been shown to reduce the risk of that. There's a great study with the Pima Indians who were susceptible to blood sugar issues. They added magnesium and the recovery was unbelievable. Osteoporosis, migraine headaches, depression. Serotonin, by the way, requires sufficient levels of magnesium, most of which is produced. The neurotransmitters are produced in the guts. People who use antidepressants often become deficient in magnesium as well. About 10% of the population are using those, so you must be also mindful of that. Malate, magnesium malate. This is related to enzymatic function inside the body. People who suffer from energy issues, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, oftentimes, or heavy metal like heavy aluminum levels. Magnesium malate has been shown to be effective in helping with those issues. Then there is magnesium taurate. I like this one particularly. It's a mimicker of GABA. And GABA is a neurotransmitter that blocks impulses in the nerve systems in the brain. So it has a relaxation type of effect, kind of a euphoric, as that, I feel good. Cardiovascular health, so irregular heartbeats. We all have heard of athletes who are in great condition and had an irregular heartbeat, oftentimes because they sweat out so much magnesium, and Torate's beneficial there. Again, also for migraines. All of this, by the way, on our site is backed up by the research. Insulin sensitivity. PMS. A lot of women who suffer from extreme conditions of PMS can find relief when using magnesium, and Torate is one of the leading magnesium types for that, according to the research. Then we have Magnesium Orotate. This is another one for premature heartbeat. So magnesium is one of the regulators between the signal that's sent to your nervous system. So for heart rhythm, vasomotor tone, what's that? Well, that's basing to the tone and tension of your muscles. A lot of people will get kind of loose muscles as they get older. That's because they're not able to regulate the contraction versus the relaxation of the muscle. Also the vasotone of the arteries. So you want to make sure that that's really good. Aspartate, which is neuromuscular concerns, acid alkaline balance. So when your blood stays in a certain pH range, I always use 3.65 is perfect. 7.365, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That's the mid-range. And if you go outside over 7.4 or below 7.1, you really run into problems. Your pH needs to stay in that range. And one of the things that buffers it is minerals such as magnesium. Aspartate is good for that as well. And then we have magnesium suprasomial, a brand new type of magnesium. It's been shown to be absorbable inside the blood-brain barrier. It's very effective. And we've added that into the formulation recently. Glucose metabolism, as well as cardiovascular support, has been very supportive of that. So we've added that in there. It's really, really fun. So some of the fun things. And then, of course, as delivery agents, we put humic and fulvic monatomic blend, which is what plants use to extract minerals out of the soil, vitamin B6 and manganese in order to deliver it to your cells where you need it.
You touched on heart health, and my son, I mentioned in the beginning, had a bout of leukemia, which when we have under control, and he's in the clear. But as an extreme athlete, 15 years old, he was rowing crew, and his heart was stopping. And there was a night, I've told this story, where I wake up at 2 a.m. to this pounding on the bathroom wall, and he's trying to wake me up because his heart had stopped, and he was just pounding at his chest to get it going. And I talked to our practitioner, and he said he is low in potassium and magnesium, and because of the sodium potassium pump and just the cellular health. And these extreme athletes are sweating so much and depleting their minerals, obviously stress too, right? So he takes the Magnesium Breakthrough at a higher dose than most of us would. And then that's where I wanted to also touch on before we go, is to make sure you talk about the high dosing in the beginning, or what do you recommend? I mean, how do you know if you're deficient? Well, we're all deficient, right? But how would you recommend taking the Magnesium Breakthrough?
Great question. So the gold standard for testing, if you want to get scientific, is the SpectraCell testing, which shows not only what's present in your body, how well you absorb it inside of your cells, not a blood test, which is not going to tell you what's actually inside your cells. So that's a great one. Most of the top athletes and stuff use that. If you're an athletic type of person, you're probably going to need at least double the amount of an ordinary individual. And if you've been depleted for a long time, you're probably going to need what we call a loading phase. This was developed by orthomolecular nutritionists, Dr. Hoffer, Dr. Pauling, the 2-time Nobel Prize winner, and Dr. David Hawkins. And what you do is you start with a small dosage, like say 1 cap, and take it maybe with each of your meals throughout the day. And then you would add an extra cap to maybe 2 of those meals per day, or 1 before bed or 2 before bed. When you hit the runs, in other words, you hit tolerance, you'll start to release your bowels. In other words, you'll have to go to the bathroom. And so that's usually when you back off the dosage about 0.5 gram and you stay there. And then if you experience that again, and sometimes that'll happen a month or two in, then you can down regulate again. And what that is, it's like you have a hole in the bucket with your lifestyle, and the bucket is how much magnesium you need to be optimal. You want to fill that bucket up. And then once the bucket's filled, you only need enough magnesium that you're burning out to keep it full, and you can operate from a full bucket. And let me tell you, when I started that, I was taking just over 5 grams a day I went up to start with, which is a whopping amount. And I stayed there and down regulate. And now today I use 1.5 to 2 grams. I do sweat a lot. I do train. Most people will find, 1 gram, at lunch, or like one or 2 capsules at lunch and a couple capsules before bed will make them feel absolutely A-okay.
My quick question, though, is I've always been afraid to take magnesium any time of day during the day because it'll make me tired. Is that not the case with the Magnesium Breakthrough?
You shouldn't experience fatigue from magnesium use. If you are, I would. There's probably some other mechanism that you're overclocked. And if you're overclocked and magnesium is kind of like making you go to sleep, then you probably want to check on whatever's creating an overstimulation in your nervous system, because what's happening, you're in a state of fatigue. That magnesium is causing the body relaxes and tries to regenerate. And so you want to get upstream of the original issue if that's what happens to you from magnesium. It does happen in some cases, but it's usually an indication that there's some other overstimulation of the body.
Okay, and then the other question is someone like my children who are taking the magnesium gummies, which are magnesium citrate, and they know that it helps with their bowel movements. Dose for dose, they won't experience that, the loose bowels with the Magnesium Breakthrough as quickly, correct? Because it's not just strictly the magnesium citrate.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. And so as the last question on the dosing, am I going to get the same benefits if I choose to take my full dose at night versus spreading it out through the day?
Most people love taking it before bed. They find that that's the most effective for them. It really helps them sleep better and feel more rested. Me as an athlete, I know that I'm cranking, I go sweat a lot in the morning. I train in the afternoon as well. So I have 2 training sessions a day and a high stimulation place here in Venice Beach with all the EMFs and stuff, and at night, and then my own inability to take in magnesium that well. And I understand that. So I've used all of these tools for myself. Again, a little bit of experimentation with a private practitioner such as you, Sara, and they'll dial in their dosage in no time at all.
Awesome. Well, I always talk about the 2 biggest threats that we have right now to our health is insulin resistance and toxicity. And magnesium is a huge key to both of those huge issues that keep on growing and growing in our society and our lifestyle. And unless you're going to go live under a rock, you're going to be exposed at least a lot more than our ancestors were. So Wade, thanks again for joining us once again, full of amazing information. Where can people find you? They can find the Magnesium Breakthrough at Accelerated Health Products for sure. But where can they find you and follow you on your podcast as well?
Yeah, you go to BiOptimizers.com. The Awesome Health Podcast is there as well. We have the Instagram and social media handles all available on the BiOptimizers.com website. And I would encourage people to check out our 84 days course, which is the entire philosophy. I give it away for free. It's a foundational component that goes way beyond supplementation diets, about the lifestyle practices and principles that will live your best life. And it's our gift to all our listeners.
And that's what I love about you, is that you back it up with the amazing education, because I feel like it just goes nowhere to just tell someone to take a supplement without them actually understanding what's going on. It's just like raising kids. If you tell them not to touch something, they're going to want to touch it unless you tell them why not, right? So there you go. So thanks, Wade. And thank you, everybody else, for joining us today. If I can help you with your health issues, you can contact me directly through the website, SaraBanta. health.com. I'm happy to put together a protocol for you. You can also join my free group coaching on Telegram. It will be in the description below, and you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram under Accelerated Health Products, my YouTube channel, and over 100 channels under Accelerated Health Radio and TV. If you like what you heard today, please share with your friends and family and leave a comment below. Hit the subscribe button. Wade and I need your help to share this important message. And you can find all of my information at SaraBantaHealth.com. Use coupon W4HC20 for 20% off site-wide. As you support Accelerated Health Products, I'm able to bring you this show and the amazing guests. Thanks again for joining us here at Accelerated Health Radio, and have a great week. Thanks, Wade.